I've done a PlayStation 2 buying guide, a PlayStation 3 buying guide, but what about a PS1 or PlayStation 4 buying guide? Yeah, I'm holding off on those two for very specific reasons. And the same goes for Sony's first handheld, the PSP. But what about their second handheld, the Vita? Well, I don't actually own a Vita handheld, but I do own this. What is this? This little black slab that I'm holding upside down? This is the PlayStation TV, known in Japan as the PlayStation Vita TV. Is it worth buying in 2018? Well, let's find out in today's video as we go over the hardware itself, the games, and finally whether this is better than an actual Vita. Welcome to Stuff We Play, home of everything weird and retro, where we're looking at something very weird today. And if that sounds cool to you, why not subscribe? The PlayStation TV, Sony's foray into the microconsole genre. But what is a microconsole? Is it even a genre? Did I misuse that term? Well, let's hop right into the video. This PlayStation TV was originally released in Japan as a PlayStation Vita TV in 2013. Nearly a year later, it made its way to Europe and North America, simply as the PlayStation TV. I don't know why they dropped the Vita branding, but perhaps it was because the Vita itself was selling pretty terribly over here. PlayStation TV launched with two different models. The first was one that just had the console itself, and there was another which was $100 US, which came with the Lego Movie game plus a PlayStation 3 controller. As it's a home console Vita, Sony didn't actually go to the trouble of making a dedicated controller for it. Rather, you can either use a DualShock 3 from a PlayStation 3 or a DualShock 4 from a PlayStation 4. Seeing how obscure this is, it obviously didn't sell well. In fact, I bought my PlayStation TV on sale with the Lego Movie bundle for $25 at an American Walmart. This wasn't on the market very long, and Sony's been trying to kill off the Vita for a while, it seemed. The PS TV has such a simple, sleek design. It's just a black slab. On the back, you have an Ethernet port, your power port, an HDMI out, a USB out, and a slot for one of Sony's terrible proprietary Vita memory cards. Besides that, the only other opening on the console is the cartridge slot. Very simple, very sleek, but how is it to use? It's just a Vita on a TV, but the Vita layout with its bubbles and whatnot is very easy to navigate, even with a controller. And on top of that, you can still do the remote play that you can with a PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 3. Regardless, from my experiences trying it with a PS4, there's a bit of lag. If you want to play any games on a PlayStation TV, but your PS4 is in another room, don't have it be anything fast-paced. Maybe do a nice turn-based RPG. And speaking of turn-based RPGs, let's get into the games. There's really not much more to say here besides the fact that it's a home console Vita. However, one area where it was lacking was apps. This was around the time of the micro-console craze. Remember consoles such as the Ouya or the GameStick? Neither do I, neither do most consumers, because they were terrible. This one, despite being pretty good, lacked key features such as Netflix. But how about games? Not every PS Vita game works with the PlayStation TV. Technically, you can play every PS Vita game on here if you mod it. Just make sure that your console is not up to the latest firmware, and if this is technically illegal to mention, disregard everything I just said. But I'll be honest, I bought this because Vitas are still rather expensive and cost about $150 used, and at $25, this was a great way to get into it. The one reason I bought this system was my love of the East series. I'd really gotten into it after downloading East Book 1 and 2 from the Wii Virtual Console, and then I had to get East. Memories of Celceta. Memories of Celceta is interesting because it's a remake of East 4. It's a fantastic game where once again you control Adolf Christian, who this time has lost his memory. So you must go through the land of Celceta, which is covered by this massive forest, meeting new characters who can join your party, going through dungeons, fighting bosses, and it is wonderful. It is action RPG bliss, but the soundtrack's amazing. The gameplay is solid. So you know a game I bought right afterwards though for the PS TV? It was a kart racer. And it's a game that's been on every last generation console under the sun, but it's great here. And that's Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transform. This is a phenomenal kart racer. The Transform comes here because it's a Sonic racing game, but you can transform into an airplane, or you can transform into a boat. I know it sounds a lot like Mario Kart 8, but I promise, I think this came out a bit beforehand, and it's really solid. You have levels based off of Panzer Dragoon, based off of Knights. You have all these different Sega characters, and everyone I'd ever want to play with is available here to play as, except for Rystar. But that's fine, I can go cry about Rystar later. This game is phenomenal. It's great any way you play it, but it's actually pretty cheap on the Vita, which is good because Vita games really hold their price. Another game for the Vita, which proves how much of an RPG powerhouse this was, is Persona 4 Golden. This is the reason why most people I know bought the Vita, because Ys never gets the love it deserves. But Persona 4 Golden is a solid game. Not quite as good as last year's Persona 5, but wow is it solid. Well, the PS Vita had a bunch of games come out in Japan, some of which are just now making their way over here. Penny Punching Princess comes to mind, though that's also on the Switch. I'm probably going to talk about the most infamous of those. A game I'd really recommend, not because it's a good game, it's honestly a pretty mediocre game, but because of how ridiculous it is and how ridiculous the story is. And that's Dead or Alive Extreme 3. This here is a PlayStation 4 version. I unfortunately don't own the Vita version, but it is on the Vita. It takes girls from the Dead or Alive fighting games, puts them in skimpy outfits, skimpy bathing suits, and then you gotta swoon them and give them gifts, and there's jiggle physics, and people threw a fit when they found out the third entry in the series was coming out over here. So Tecmo decided to keep this in Japan, but there is an English language subtitle option, and you will feel really dirty about yourself while playing this game, but it's a thing, it exists. So finally we're going to ask, should you buy a PS TV or a PS Vita? And I'll be honest here, it depends. Do you want something that you could potentially record games with, or something that's a very comfortable handheld? If you want an easy way to get into the world of Vita games that might have to be modded to get the full potential out of it, this is a great choice for you. And the thing is, the vast majority of games don't have to be accessed through modification. The bulk of them will work out of the box in my experiences. So if you want a comfortable handheld, you might be better off with the Vita. Except the Vita itself has retained value and is still like $150 used. But regardless, I love the PSTV. It's a flawed system, they really kind of missed the mark with it, but it's so cheap when you come by it nowadays, and there's so many great games for it, and it gives you such an easy vantage point to enter into the world of Vita gaming at a low price that I will highly recommend that you buy a PSTV in 2018. But you know what? I'm just rambling right now. Do you think the PSTV or the PS Vita is worth it in 2018? Let me know down in the comment section below. And while you're at, why don't you subscribe to Stuff Replay for more great content like this. Now, I know some of you are also going to be asking, wait, PSTV? I thought you meant the actual Sony Bravia television. I did not. But if you want to see me talk about that, I did a video where I talked about weird console variants on my friend Token Geek's channel, and you should definitely check that out. Or if you want to hear me talk about Sony stuff more, check out the end screen card to see me talk about if you should buy a PlayStation 2 in 2018. Now I'm stuttering, I'm dehydrated, need some water, and I'm being eaten by mosquitoes, so I'm going to say, thank you very much for watching, stay classy, and I'll see you next time.